My dear Bagginses and Buffins.
By the blood of our people, are your lands kept safe?
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
Welcome back, everyone. The Fellowship of the Ring, the extended edition, was just in theaters. We had the privilege and opportunity to see it. It was fantastic, and it is smashing box office expectations. I don't know how it smashes the expectations. I expected it to do well. Like, we've had Dune 2, but that's really the only big movie this year. Every other movie is failing at the box office. So I guess that's where their expectations come from, that, oh, if, Fall Guy can't do well, what chance does a 20-year-old movie have? But I don't think they realized how feverish the fans of this movie are to see it on the big screen with a bunch of friends and a bunch of people who just love Lord of the Rings. Like, I actually really enjoy going to cinema to see old movies. I've done this with you. We saw A New Hope. I've also done this with Alien and Fight Club, and it's a theater full of fans of the movie, so you're not going to have annoying people there. Everyone there is going to pay attention because they love the film. And so it's actually one of the best experiences to have, because I go to some of these movies that are brand new and halfway in people are bored because it's not a very good movie, and people just start ruining the experience. So personally, I like it when it's an old movie because that's not going to happen. But I digress. This was an awesome experience. Saw it with you and a couple other friends who aren't the biggest Lord of the Rings fans, but they had a great time. I don't even know if they got to see it in theaters the first time around, because back then we were younger. Many of them probably had to go with their parents to the theater if they were going to go see this movie, and if
But it's also the first time of us seeing it on the extended on the big screen.
True,
too.
That's right. You're right. Seeing it in the extended format on the big screen is a rare opportunity. They have done it a couple times, but we've never been able to catch it. But we did see it in theaters when it first came out, and I remember the magic that it had back then, and I still felt it going in, getting a little bit of chills and goosebumps. The only difference is I already knew all the words, and I could kind of mouth along the entire movie. So yeah, I had a blast. I know this was being talked about a little bit beforehand, but it did kind of catch people off guard. We didn't have that much knowledge in advance about this, and especially where we are, it wasn't clear we were going to have any theaters near us showing this. And the other thing is, this was on specific days. So some theaters had it on different days, and I couldn't make those ones that were out of town. Luckily, we had one that was close by that had it on a day that we were all available, so it worked out. But I know that's the other hang-up here. So even though
and the theater was completely full.
Oh, it was completely full. Even we were not in the front row, but we were kind of close to the front, and even up to the front was full of people. It definitely wasn't an empty theater, and it wasn't. I didn't expect it to be. I knew. I mean, I was the one that purchased the tickets, and so I saw how quickly seats are filling up, and I had to make a snap decision. I just bought the 4 tickets, saying, "Hey, even if people can't go, maybe I'll bring someone else, but I can't let this wait any longer. There's going to be no seats left." So, I'm really glad we got to do it. I don't know if it'll ever happen again for us, so I was really excited about that. And, I mean, this is a weird little segue, but we actually got a chance to see Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd in a theater production a month ago. So it's kind of, we've been experiencing a lot of pop culture renaissance of Lord of the Rings and actors from Lord of the Rings in a weird way. So it's kind of interesting.
I wonder if Rings of Power is so bad that it's making people really appreciate.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to touch on this real quick, and while we're on the topic of the original trilogy, obviously there's a lot of talk right now about a bunch of stuff: the War of the Rings of Power season 2, and the Hunt for Gollum, the new live action movie that's going to be coming out in a couple years. And with that, we have a little bit of insight on what some of the original actors are thinking about. So Ian McKellen was asked recently about the possibility of him reprising his role as Gandalf. Now, how is this going to work? Are they going to be able to de-age him using CGI or something? Because the Hunt for Gollum is a prequel, or at the
He's
very
alive.
least, it's within the same timeline as the original trilogy. But yes, so Ian McKellen, the one and only Gandalf, did say he was open to it, but he needs to still be alive to make that happen. Okay, so here's another. To be honest, people are kind of making a bigger deal out of that comment than it needs to be, because obviously he's an older man, and
He's got a sense of humor.
he's got a sense of humor about it. But like that's a very real worry. I mean, there are actors from the original trilogy no longer with us. And
Yep.
so the two big ones I can think of off the top of my head, maybe more. So I knew that was always going to be a thing with Ian McKellen and potentially not being around for it. But is there a possibility, like the way they did in Star Wars? Now, I don't even know if Ian McKellen's open to it, and if he's not open to it, then don't do it. But the way they did in Star Wars with Rogue One, right? They had the I forget the character's name.
Leia?
No, he's a general.
Oh, Tarkin.
Yeah, Tarkin.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a de-aging. It was like they
completely inserted a CGI character. Yeah.
Yeah, and so is that a possibility? What would that even look like? Because at least in Star Wars,
hopefully they improve it.
well, so at least in Star Wars, they had they were able to lean on the fact that they used him as one of those holograms, and those look slightly off anyway. So even if you were gonna say, oh, it doesn't look quite right, you could always just attribute that to the holograms within universe type of thing. But Gandalf has a huge part to play in this Hunt for Gollum, so it can't look like. So this is the worry that I've had, and no one seems to want to talk about it. We'll do that in another video, but essentially, like,
if he's physically up to it. Well, I mean, they could use a lot of doubles, I imagine.
True, but we've seen what Peter Jackson did with The Hobbit. And
well, and he went. I mean, there's a whole story of Ian McKellen breaking down because of all the green screen stuff.
That's right. And so
That
my thought is, they did do a lot of CGI characters that didn't need to be in The Hobbit. Would Peter Jackson and/or Andy Serkis, whoever's like actually in charge, would they be open to doing that with a Gandalf character? Like, I hope not. I kind of want a real live person there, but anyway.
I mean, Gandalf's supposed to look old anyway. I don't know if it's a big deal. He's way under a beard. It might be fine. He just needs to. It's just whether he's physically up to it, I think.
True. I hope he is. I hope he's up for it, and up for it, and alive to do it. I would love to see him back. He plays the character brilliantly. He understands the character, and this is the Gandalf the Grey. I happen to like Gandalf the Grey a little bit better because he feels closer to the hobbits than he does once he comes back as Gandalf the White. So I like that dynamic. I know there's not going to be hobbits necessarily in the movie. That the way the character interacts with the world, there's a lot more sentimentality and emotion towards these other creatures of the world, whereas Gandalf the White is a bit more business oriented in dealing with the threat. And that leads me to another actor we would love to see back, but obviously it doesn't really make sense because it's a prequel and
He's 20 years older.
Vigo
25
is
years older.
and Vigo is now the age that Ian McKellen was during the filming of the original trilogy.
Right.
How is he
He's
going
70.
how is he going to play himself 20 years younger? And like, is that going to work? Are they going to be able to use makeup and make him like? I think he still looks great, but it's going to seem weird if they don't get the look right to mirror what was in the original trilogy. It would make no sense. It's a prequel / like in between film. You can't have these actors looking like they're 20 years older. So I really hope we get to see him in it. And I think we've touched on this before, but he recently made a film and was allowed by Peter Jackson to use Aragorn's sword in it, which I think is pretty awesome that Vigo has it and was allowed to do it. Something that no one else seems to be allowed to do because Rings of Power aren't allowed to use any other like similar looking costumes or items from the original trilogy. So I'm not really sure how they got around that. But he's another one that is open to it. He does talk here that he enjoyed playing the character. He enjoyed the world. We've talked about this, and everyone knows this, but he wasn't even really gonna take the part initially.
They had cast someone else. And,
they'd cast someone else, but even when they were looking for a replacement, it was his son that really prompted him, saying, "These books are awesome, and you should be a part of this. It's going to be special." And he didn't know anything about it, and he took to it. And when you read the books, I see him in my mind. Like that's what I'm visualizing. Even though he maybe should appear a bit older than he does. I don't care. That's the look I want for Aragorn in my mind. So I also hope that they're able to do it, but again, I just don't know how they're going to make this work. And I hate ripping on the Hobbit trilogy, but like that showed me what Peter might be willing to go to, the lengths he's maybe going to go to have certain things work the way he wants it to. And I just feel like we need to get away from the overuse of CGI and get back to what made...
He still looks pretty good. I mean, give him some hair dye and a good makeup, a little bit of de-aging effects. I think it could work fine, yeah.
I agree. As long as on camera and on screen it works, then I'm all for it. They can do some test footage, and if it's not working, then they might have to bring in stunt doubles for a lot of the action or something. But yeah, I hope we get to see it. He hasn't even read like there's no script. There is no he doesn't even know the idea fully, because again, Vigo isn't as obsessed with this world as the rest of us, so he might not even know what Aragorn's role is in all of this. So he's waiting to basically be asked, essentially, but it has to make sense. And it's really Andy Serkis that's gonna, I think, make these decisions, and he'll be the one probably to figure out, hey, does this actually work? Can we make this happen 20 years later? As much as we all want it to. I know we all want it to. I'm not saying that we don't want to see the original characters and actors again, but it has to still look good, and it has to still feel like the original trilogy. It can't just feel like a big, family reunion. It has to actually work as a film. And that's my worry, but that's for another video, I think. This one is more about the resurgence of the original trilogy in theaters, some of the original actors and their thoughts on stepping back into the roles 20 years later. But yeah, let us know down below what you guys think. Did you guys get out to see any of the movies? Because I know all three were happening at various times in theaters. all of them extended. Let us know your thoughts down below.